Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Billy the Kid. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Billy finally made his way to Lincoln and hooked up with the rest of the Seven Rivers gang, and obviously they finally meet up with Murphy, who is an Irishman himself, and he's got two Irish dudes who work for him too. So even more reason why he's like, oh, I trust you, Billy, because you're Irish as well. So I think it's that almost camaraderie thing of we have to stick together. But once again, Billy is being put at the forefront, like he's the leader of this gang, even though it's Jesse's gang. But Jesse kind of had to take a back seat, which he definitely had issue with it last episode, but he's kind of put that aside for now because it's right, this is how it is, because Frank was like, yo, this is who everyone wants Billy, because Billy's got the reputation. And I think it's such an important distinction that everyone calls Billy the Kid except for Billy. Billy never introduces himself that way. He always says, oh, I'm Billy. And then he won't say his name sometimes because later on the guy was like, oh, you never told me your name. And he walked away because he knew the moment he said oh, I'm Billy, that would just start jumping that through people's minds of wait, you're Billy the Kid. So he won't even introduce himself because you can tell he cringes a little. It just, or winces, cringes, whichever you want to think of it, anytime people refer to him as Billy the Kid, because all everyone wants to talk about is his reputation of who he is as Billy the Kid. And for Billy, it's he said before, he never wanted to be famous in that regard, because being famous as Billy the Kid it's a spit in the face to everything his mom said about him. His mom believed him to be a good guy, and for him, it's the reputation of Billy the Kid isn't the same person that, who he became just for the sake of trying to protect the people he grew to care about, trying to make a way in this world for his family, and he's kind of alone in this world, and, trying to get by. It's not always the easiest thing just to be the nice guy. Sometimes you have to be the bad guy, but Billy doesn't like that in himself. He wants to try and find another way. He wants to be someone else, but that reputation of Billy the Kid, it's a heavier crown than he thought it was. He's like, fine, people want to reference me as Billy the Kid, they better pay for me. That's what he said last episode. So now it is a situation of now that's coming more and more, because you're no longer just Billy, it's always Billy the Kid. And he's basically a dancing monkey for people. It's their job, Murphy's being undercut by another tungsteel, another business person who's in the grain business and stuff like that. And he's got a lot of the Mexican families around working for him. And so it's up to the Seven Rivers gang to kind of scare them into working again, because they stopped working. They had a contract with Murphy, but they started working with Tungsteel because Tungsteel actually pays them enough of a living wage so that they can make a living and take care of their family, whereas Murphy screws them over. And once again, it's I think a very important detail. The only person in the Seven Rivers gang who actually speaks Spanish is Billy, because Billy grew up around, once again, his best bud was Carlos. He grew up around that, so he learned Spanish at a very young age, and he doesn't have the same prejudice that everyone else is, because everyone else is ooh, American. They had that mentality of you're in, it's especially Jesse, because Jesse made it seem because that's why Billy was right, you never had much love for the Irish either. He was it's just the one guy. I don't hold that against you, Billy. But for Billy, it's right, even his friend Jesse talks down on people who are Mexican, and that doesn't sit well with Billy, because they get treated like they're less than human, especially the way Jesse talks to him. And Billy just wants, every time throughout the episode, Billy is there to de-escalate the situation, because he's trying to be understanding. It's this guy that Manuel says that Murphy does not pay them a living enough wage. Jesse didn't care about all that, especially when the guys that work for Murphy were yo, you need to hit harder. Because the more that the Mexican families still work with Tunsil, the more it cuts into their profits, because now they're in debt. So it's not only man, we have to pay back a large enough money to even get back into black, because they're still in the red right now. So they're extra motivated, right, talking to them isn't enough. You need to make an example of them. And the moment that happened, you're I was sure Jesse was going to go do that on his own, but I'm sure, right, those things have to be handled with Billy being there as well. But like I said earlier, Billy gets brought about the dancing monkey. It's hey, oh, Billy, show off your shooting prowess. And Billy was no. The guy was no, we tell you to do something, you do it. Billy's no, thank you. And the guy's willing to give him a gun, and it's just like, and Billy just kind of like, it's the realization of like, right, this is what I asked for. I said for people to use my services, like they'd have to pay me, and now they're willing to pay me with this neat gun. But it is this situation of like, right, they, my name, my reputation, being infamous as I am as Billy the Kid, this is what it looks like. So he proceeds to show off, and he goes hard into paint. It's like, oh, destroy all these bottles, pull out the rifle, bang, bang, hit the lamps, hit the targets, lit, and laid into it. And everyone went silent when he started laying into it, because it's like, oh shit, Billy the Kid's a killing machine. Like, if he needed to and wanted to, and just you could just tell it rocked Billy to his core, because it's just like how easy and how good he is at killing someone. He doesn't like that. He's only got a few bodies, but that's a few bodies too many on hanging on his soul. So like showing off like that, showing how proficient he is at killing, is just a reminder of how easy it would be for him to kill people, to take lives. Because he took a life. The last life he took was during the jailbreak when he freed Segura, and I think that kind of sat with him too, when Segura was like, wow, you really have changed. You're not the same person anymore. And it weighs on him like every body matters. I think it's the thing of, it's probably anyone with a... I think the fact is that it shows that there's still a decent person in Billy. That the fact is that, yes, he's pulled that trigger when it hasn't always been necessary. I feel like the home dude who was after... what was it? Was it Diaz? The guy that was after him and Segura. That's probably... He didn't have to kill that guy, but that guy still would have come after him if Billy had left him alive. But it's still... That is a situation where it's like... Every other situation, Billy's typically killed someone in self-defense. That was at that point the earliest instance of, oh, I killed someone in cold blood. And then you had the situation with that guard. He ended up like laying like shooting him multiple times. So it's like, yeah, like that. Billy's, I think, scared of, at least how I feel about it, Billy's scared of, once again, how easy it is to kill someone, how easy it is to take a life. The hardest thing is to not do that, to not slip down that route, to be the person his mom wanted him to be, the person he wants to be. But who that is right now is, especially when it's like, right, you're part of this gang, they are your friends, but also at the same time, it's like they kind of count on you, because the only reason why they have this job is because your reputation as Billy the Kid makes it so that they have the money to survive. So... But like I said, like after he did that showcasing of his skill, everyone was definitely quiet, because everyone was almost like, "Oh shit!" Billy just walked away. But then they ended up meeting some of the people that that work for Tungstill. Nevertheless, Billy and the others met with Tungstill's people, who are kind of, now it's like, right, we're both opposite sides of this situation, but once again, Billy being like, right, we don't have to turn this into anything nasty, let's just kind of, you stay on your side of things, we'll stay on ours, and let's just not make this a bigger thing than it needs to be. We will each do our respective situations for our employers, but because of the whole situation with the orders they were given the opportunity, Jesse got super aggressive, and he got aggressive with Emmanuel, even though Billy didn't want things to escalate that way, and lo and behold, Pat Garrett ends up shooting him because he was going to pick up a gun. I mean, that was going to happen one way or another, when the fact is that he was threatening Billy. Maybe he wouldn't have pulled the trigger, he maybe would have tried to scare them off, but I figured that situation was going to turn the way it did. I was actually surprised it was Pat who shot him. I would have thought was Billy trying to protect Jesse, but it's like, once again, he didn't want things to turn that way, so they go back. Pat is now getting arrested by the sheriff, or rather brought in, and he's like, yeah, it's self-defense. And the reason why the sheriff normally would let him go, but under these circumstances he can't, because the town, a lot of that town's population are Mexican people, so for him it's a situation of that he doesn't want. I guess there's been issues in the past where like revolts have kind of stirred up amongst the people, and he doesn't want that. They're trying to keep everything very low key, so that they need Pat to go away. They need him going, like otherwise it's going to turn into a whole riot situation. But Murphy kind of smooths things out. He's like, right, Pat, basically send him somewhere he can like do some reformation or whatever, but somewhere he could still end up getting a job, which now I'm like, the fact is he referenced something, I'm like, wait, is that how Pat gets to where he's supposed to be in the normal continuity of who he's supposed to be. Maybe that's going to play into his story, because I was like, how does Pat go from where he is in this story to where he ends up? I'm like, can you make that transition considering your situation? And I guess given enough time and given like I guess they let a lot of stuff slide like that back in the day. So without, once again, without spoiling what Pat's circumstances are, I actually was kind of wondering, because I know what Pat's circumstances are, like real life wise, the real Pat Garrett, I was under the impression like, okay, so maybe him meeting with the sheriff, there'd be a conversation. It ends up happening. Totally didn't happen. So I'm like, okay, so your circumstances in real life, once again, don't want to spoil anything for anyone that doesn't know. Once again, it's history, but still, I'll talk about it when it gets to that point in the story, which I don't know if they'll really cover that where things are currently. But it must be an end result of like, there's going to be a roundabout way to get him to where he ends up being in real life. But it's like, other than that, like, tell everyone, put the message out there that he's being sent somewhere really, really, really harsh. So that's how that goes down. You had George visiting a guy named Charlie, which that actor, his name is it Luke Camarelli, I think? I'm probably butchering that. I've seen him in so many things. I was looking through his filmography a little bit. I was like, I've seen you in some stuff, and I just don't know what it was specifically. There was one of the things that he was part of. There was this short-lived show on ABC called The Crossing. I'm like, I think that might be one of the things I know you from, but apparently he was like in other shows too, like Supernatural, Once Upon a Time. I don't know if they were like lengthy appearances or whether they were like one-offs or something like that, but I'm like, he does look familiar. He plays, that's not Charlie. I thought I'm confusing it. That's McSweeney. I think that's the lawyer. But Charlie, or was it? I'm blanking now. Was it McSweeney as Luke, or is that? I think it was McSweeney. I don't think it was Charlie. At least I don't think. Whatever the case may be, George visits Charlie, and this actually hits home for Charlie later on, because that was his wife's brother-in-law, because her sister is now a widow. And now it's the situation of like, okay, he initially didn't want to get into the mix of this, because George came to him saying like, there's going to be a war coming between Tunstall and Murphy, and we got to stop it before it comes. But for Charlie, it's like, I have a baby on the way. I don't want to get in the middle of this. But at Manuel's funeral, it's like, all right, I'll choose a side. And then Billy shows up wanting to pay his respects, even admitting what happened shouldn't have happened. He's like, and I'm sorry for that. Your husband didn't deserve to die. Like, he should have never been shot. It doesn't make anything right. It doesn't alleviate any of that pain, but it struck a chord with George and Charlie. It's like, if you're the type of man, because for them it's like, they know who he is, they know Billy the Kid, and for them to see like, right, you aren't what your reputation claims you to be, make it seem like you're a heartless killer. The fact is, you were there, you were part of that, but you didn't actually pull the trigger, and you're still here paying your respects to this man, because once again, he doesn't get so high and mighty like the others do, where he's looking down because these people are Mexican. He doesn't look down at them as like they're lesser. He sees them just the same. Once again, I think it's that immigrant element of, right, you're Mexican, I'm Irish, we're both kind of in that similar boat. I still feel like, once again, even at Irish-wise, I think it's kind of like we're both at the bottom, but I think Irish people might be a little better off. I mean, you have people like Murphy who are in power and stuff like that, so, I don't think that 100% equates, but still. Billy's trying to figure out what to do, especially when he sees the Seven Rivers gang, like when those guys show up and they're like, right, Mr. Murphy appreciates you doing what you had to do, you had no choice, yada yada, blah, 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 right? And so he's like, they're rewarding the Seven Rivers gangs, and you can see like it's like eating away at Billy, that like we're rewarded for killing a man. Especially because he's starting to see that Murphy isn't the good guy. It's like, right, these families, they only went to they went to Tungsten because Murphy isn't paying them enough. So it's like, right, these are people just trying to make a living for their family. So he's trying to it just didn't sit well with him. And so now finally he ends up going to try and talk to Tunstall, and it leads to him and Charlie interacting. And so it's like, right, we got to do this discreetly. I will meet with Tunstall because he's like, right, there's a war brewing, but there's one person that's in the right, Tungsu, and there's one person that's super in the wrong, Murphy. And it's like, even he's like, and I'm thinking you're starting to realize that. Well, I think that's what McSweeney says to him later, that you're starting to see what's really going on here, who's really the bad guy, who's really in the wrong. And so Billy says that he has to keep this discreet, because if he breaks his contract with Murphy, it's going to be an issue. Because for one, the Seven Rivers gang, this is their job. They were hired on it. And like, I got some people who are, I have friends, people who are relying on this job. So I can't really up and screw over Murphy, because if I screw him over, everyone else. Because once again, Billy is the main deal. Everyone else is a package deal. If Billy gets outed, like everyone else does too. So he wants to keep this super low key. So, they're waiting to, like, well, they're going to meet with McSweeney and then get the lowdown about everything that's really going on. But Billy then was, like, hanging out with Charlie, and they had a card game. And one of the wives and one of the people that Billy works under, one of Murphy's underlings, one of his guys, his wife, is there. And you can tell she's kind of, she's hitting on Billy, like, once again, being like, Billy the Kid. He's kind of like, yes, ma'am. She's like, don't call me ma'am. Makes me feel older. He's like, yeah, I admit no disrespect by that. And she's even saying like, oh, why don't you stay? You can walk me home. I'm like, that's a trap. Don't do that. And Billy's like, no. And the guy's like, oh, I'll walk you home. I was like, thank God you got out of that. I mean, he knows that he was trying to meet up with McSweeney and everything anyway, but I think it also, it's like, right, he knows, he's already been in, a situation where he had an entanglement with someone that was already in a relationship, so he's already been kind of down that path, not trying to, the whole Barbara thing. So I don't know if it'd be 100% the same, but he knows, like, right, he's trying to, like, go against Murphy and someone that's in Murphy's camp. It's pretty not good to mix pleasure and business like that, and that could get super nasty and could blow up in his face big time, so good thing. But as they were leaving, there was a lady in a black dress or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, this person's from a very well-off family, and Billy's like, wait, what? I was like, wait, is there two of them or just one? But it seemed like it was just one. I'm like, it's one of the ladies one of the sisters that screwed over Billy and Segura a couple episodes ago, wasn't it? I want to say it is her, because she pulled back the veil at one point in time when she went in the car, and she looked at Billy and they locked eyes, and she immediately put the veil back down. It's like, yeah, so you're here pulling off your scam. I'm curious, is Billy going to do anything about that? Is he going to use that to his advantage? Because they did get robbed of, like, a lot of stuff. It's like, yeah, you doing what you did kind of set a lot of stuff in motion, so I'm kind of upset about that. So we'll see if Billy does anything about it. He probably won't expose her. It'd be interesting if they end up, like, crossing paths and ended up being kind of like an intimate thing. Once again, I don't know whether her partner in crime is there or not, too. The fact is that she's alone, or am I being stupid and that's not the same person? I swear it is. But maybe, like, the whole, oh, she's, like, super rich and stuff, so that makes me go, like, isn't that the same person? But maybe not. Maybe I'm being stupid. But it's like, yeah, why weren't there two of them then? Not unless they're both running off doing their own scam. I don't know. I was so confident when I was watching the episode, but now I'm thinking back to it, I'm like, I don't know. It's been a while. Well, I only saw their faces, like, there were a couple scenes in that episode, and it's been a couple weeks now, so I'm not 100% sure if that's them or not. I mean, at least one of them, so. But, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next. Billy, meeting with McSweeney and is going to hear everything. And McSweeney saying, like, right, this is the point where you're essentially, it was almost like destiny's going to come a knocking. And there's going to be a situation of you're going to have to, basically Billy's going to have to decide who he wants to be. And in that moment, he's like looking at the mirror, obviously symbolic of, are you going to keep up with being Billy the Kid, or are you going to let that go? Who do you want to be? This is the time where you pick a side. This is where you choose who you want to be. And I think this is going to be where we shift from who Billy is known to be versus, even if he has a reputation of Billy the Kid, who he can live with being, Can he live with being the Billy that everyone knows him from just as Billy the Kid? Or does he want to be the person his mom wanted him to be, trying to do the right thing in the end? We'll ultimately have to wait and see where all of this ends up taking us. The next episode is the season finale, and I do think season finale. So we'll see where things kind of go from there. Or maybe it is the finale. I feel like there's still so much, and I'm like, I don't see this being, I think there's still room for more. But we'll ultimately have to wait and see how everything plays out next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye. Bye.